Sis and Tell, a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of nothing. Amanda does stand up, Alison's on TV, and when they hop on the phone, you already know it's the place you wanna be. Sis and Tell, the podcast that's so sweet. Oh, Sis and Tell, Sis and Tell, a whole lot of talk about, a whole lot of nothing. Sis and Tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Just living the viral life. What happened? Oh, my God.
It's like your TikTok dreams have finally come true.
Okay, for people who are like, what the heck are they talking about? I posted, first you have to know that growing up, there were no children in the neighborhood, okay? So once in a while, a grandchild would come visit and I would seek them out and play with this kid. But really, I had no friends in the neighborhood except for my dog Pepper. And Allison was off doing teenage stuff. And my brother Stuart, who was obsessed with being a director and content creator before there was social media. Before America's Funniest Home Videos, there was Stuart Goldstein with his video camera. He wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to be in front of the camera. It was a great partnership. We have so much footage from our childhood. Stuart digitized it. I took a 20-second clip of me dancing to Cyndi Lauper in 1985. I was 8 years old, right? I'm in my ballet outfit, dancing with the boombox next to me. I posted it on TikTok and said, if TikTok existed in the 1980s and now 2.1 million views later, here we are. And it's been 5 days.
Yeah, that's worth a celebration.
Oh
and
my.
Let's back up. So for anybody who may be just tuning in to our podcast, we've been doing this for 5.5 years.
Yeah.
And I joke, but it's sort of hashtag joke, no joke, that this is the way I'm paying off and paying, it's like indentured servitude for all of the years I ignored you. Luckily, Stuart doesn't make me do one with him.
It was very hard to ignore me. Also.
It was hard to ignore you, but I just feel a little bit redeemed because when people see this video, this is what I was dealing with when I was
dealing with
15.
Nothing. What are you talking about?
No, you were the child though who always sort of needed to be center stage. To be fair, you gave us an endless supply of Amanda stories growing up. I mean, everywhere we would go, I think everywhere mommy and daddy would go, like at cocktail parties, the first thing they'd be is like, tell us the new Amanda story. But so now fast forward, 30, 40 years later, and we still have the best Amanda stories because this video, it really is. When you post it, you've posted it before.
I
though,
did.
Right? Yeah.
Literally 2 years ago, I posted it, but I had a dance off with this was before I was ever on TikTok. I had a dance off with myself from 1985, and I just posted it on my personal Facebook page, and people loved it, but nothing like viral. I mean, it was viral for me. I was like, oh my God, 400 of my friends liked this, but that was that. But I just on a whim was like, you know what? This is funny.
Well, there's so much to love about this one. First of all, because it really is hilarious if TikTok existed in 1985. I mean, it it is the fact that you have this clip and it is the perfect comparison. Second, and what I'm hearing a lot from the people I know who've watched it is the whole look, right? Like the underwear tucked into the
You can see
caprizio tights and the leotard, and you can see the end of the little white panties and like your your cute little body doing these like rolls and shifts, and you are so confident in your moves and so awkward in approach at the same time, and it makes for this beautiful example of what every kid should be, which is just free to be who they are. And I love it. And as soon as I saw it, when you posted this time, I think I said to you, there are not enough hearts for this video. It is classic Amanda. And it's just, I think everybody who watches it, I would say nostalgia is this very powerful drug.
Yes.
And I think when people watch it, they love you because they also see themselves in you and through you. So bravo.
This is what was so surprising to me is that I really thought I was this weird, quirky, confident kid, right? That was doing my own thing because we didn't have any way of sharing this stuff. In fact, Stuart and I were talking about this yesterday. We recorded it and then it went on a shelf. I don't even think we had like viewing parties for mommy and daddy.
No.
We were just happy creating this content with no viewers.
The only viewing parties we had was when mom and dad had gone to Israel in like the 70s and then came back with, I swear, like 647 slides. And I distinctly remember daddy having a slideshow of that Israel trip. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
How
if
long
I
is
see
this
one
gonna
more
be?
slide of like the Western Wall, okay, one more slide of the Dead Sea and you holding a newspaper. Okay, enough, right?
Right.
Even at that young age.
So, but I didn't realize people were going to find it so relatable. I think that's why it went viral because everyone's like tagging their friends and it's like, this is us, this is me, is that me? Did you find my video? But people also were like, I would be so embarrassed if my home videos got out there. And for me, I can't. This is the difference is that
You've been waiting 40 years for these
I've
home
been
videos to be released.
waiting. I've been waiting 38 years. I'm not going to age myself. It's 38 years, not 40. 38 years, right? I've been creating content forever, right? This is just naturally who I am. And I know you said I like being the center of attention. It's a little different than pay attention to me. It's more of let me entertain you, right? I've always loved to like make people laugh and be a source of entertainment versus like I need attention. It's more of like this need to entertain instead. I know it's like a nuance
Well, I'm
of
going to say two words that sort of are the counter argument to that, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole again, but John Stamos. Okay, so
yeah, I know. And I
that was
posted
that was a lot of pay attention to me. That wasn't let me entertain you.
But that John, no, John, I wanted the attention of boys forever. That's different.
Okay.
Absolutely. Very boy crazy. There's a John Stamos story that I think I'm banned from telling because there's one thing I said that is just the most horrifying thing. And I mean, it's probably not, if people found out what I said, they were going to be like, that's not even that
Right.
bad. But it was, you can, if you go to Mall of Amanda on TikTok, you can see a picture of me and John Stamos.
I'll just say, in equal measure, the way I remember it is there were definitely, you wanted to entertain people and be funny, but there was also moments of pay attention to me. And you're right, that probably centered a lot around your very early stages of boy craziness,
Yeah.
unapologetically. So,
But look, we're all me as different as we are, me, you, and Stuart as people, we're really, I mean, we're unique, but we're all extremely similar. We all want to entertain. Stuart, it was more from behind the scenes, but you are also a natural entertainer from a different side of things. Like you do
right.
public speaking, you do interviews. Aren't you supposed to interview Ruben Studdard?
I am, and it keeps getting pushed. But for those of you who don't remember, Ruben Studdard won season 2 of American Idol, and he's from Birmingham, Alabama.
205.
Woo! And
Woo!
so we have we've always had sort of this special place in our heart for him, especially. And he is now teaching a class in Chattanooga at UTC at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And so he was out of town. And so we have some time. I'm not worried about it. It just keeps getting pushed, but I cannot wait to see him and meet him. And I hope I get to just tell him how much of a impact he's had on people from his hometown who've been
He's
cheering for
incredible.
him for really decades.
Yeah. And by the way, to toot your horn, Allison just got nominated for an Emmy.
Thank you. Thank you. It is true. Yeah, I feel like one of those people are like, it's just an honor to be nominated.
I'm just excited we can add it to our podcast description.
Yeah. So the boys are funny. So, our boys are all over, they're out of the house and all over the world, really. And so every week on Friday, we do highlight of the week, and we missed it for 1 week. So we got to do 2 last week. And I said, oh, I had 2 highlights of the week, and we'll get to this. But one was interviewing Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein fame, since it's the 50th anniversary of Watergate, and we'll get to that. But the second I said, oh, and by the way, I got nominated for an Emmy for one of my shows last year, no
Just a
biggie.
little Emmy. What?
And the boys were going crazy on our group text. And I was laughing so hard because Arthur, our oldest, was like, this changes everything. You have to change your business cards. Like, I have business cards, right? Your business cards, your website, the way people
Your driver's license.
right, the way people are introducing you. So he started listing all the introductions. He's like, and now emceeing this event, Emmy-nominated Alison Lebovitz. He goes, and now reading the second Aliyah from the Torah, Emmy-nominated Alison Lebovitz. he goes, he goes, you have to change everything, including your Chipotle order. And then he says, I got a large burrito for Emmy-nominated Alison Lebovitz.
Oh my God. I cannot wait to go out to lunch with you where we give our names to the folks behind the counter, because I'm totally going to embarrass you and do that.
Oh, I'm so excited. And of course, I have to mention it was for my favorite episode, which happened to be the favorite
We didn't
episode
even
for our
say your
team.
show. We even established that you have a show
Oh.
on PBS.
Yeah, so for all of you listeners who don't know, I have a show on local PBS in Chattanooga, WTCI, called The A List with Alison Lebovitz. You can always find past episodes and seasons on WTCITV.org, or just Google The A List with Alison Lebovitz. There's about 14 seasons or 13 seasons.
That's
We're into our
incredible.
14th.
God.
13 years worth of episodes you can watch. And the episode that we submitted for an Emmy, so you have to submit, and then a panel of judges, peers in the industry, nominate you, and then they judge, and whoever wins. And that's not until February. But the episode that we submitted, that we unanimously agreed on, my team, was with Fawn Weaver, who is the founder and president of Uncle Nearest Whiskey, which is Uncle Nearest. Nearest Green was the master distiller for Jack Daniel, the first African American master distiller, probably in the world. And Fawn Weaver bought the land that the distillery was originally on, and now she has created just this unbelievable. They call it Malt Disney, and she's amazing. She is the only black-owned distillery, black-owned whiskey brand in the world, and they have
Wow.
won hundreds of awards already. They opened right before COVID hit, tragically, but now they have ramped up. You can find Uncle Nearest in your local liquor store. But I became obsessed with it really over the pandemic. There was a great interview with her on Guy Raz's How I Built This, which is one of my favorite podcasts other than this one. And when I heard about her and how close she was, she's about an hour and a half from me. I told our team that that season we have got to find her. So which is unusual, we approached her really just cold called her, our team, our producer, and she said yes to the interview, and here we are. So she's phenomenal. I adore her. I'm inspired by her. I love the whiskey. So it's like the trifecta of all things good.
That's so cool. And then wait, but Carl Bernstein, you interviewed him, but that was like a stage interview. That was not for the show, right?
It was for both. So the Southern Adventist University, which is a Seventh-day Adventist university here in Chattanooga, really in Collegedale, about 30 minutes from me, started this new lecture series. They have a journalism school, and they're really trying to retain journalism in their school. A lot of programs have gone to sort of a more general communication school, but they really are really determined to keep journalism as part of the name of the department. And so they started this lecture series, and they wanted to bring in someone who would inspire their current and future students. And so they asked Carl Bernstein, I don't know, how much they had to pay him to come, because he is a very sought after speaker and incredibly and still relevant. He and Bob
Right. I was
Woodward.
about to say he's extremely relevant.
Yeah,
Not just because
so-
of the anniversary of Watergate, but
No, and he's been, he's written, it's like 7 books total, but of course of late he has become a media commentator and critic, and anyway, he's profound and incredibly insightful. And so I have a relationship with the university, and they had asked me originally just to be there to moderate a Q&A, and I kind of talked myself into or talked them into letting me actually instead of him doing a traditional speech, letting it be a conversation. So I did a 50-minute conversation with him in front of an audience of about 1,500, and he allowed us to tape it for the A List. And so that I think it's going to end up being a double episode um, during our season premiere in April of
How long are each
2023.
episodes? Are they typically like 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we'll probably do this as a two-parter. We've only done that once before. That's when I interviewed John Meacham, who was the very first two episodes to run.
Oh, Aaron's
14
reading
years ago.
his book about Abraham Lincoln right now.
Yeah, he's incredible. He is incredible. I'd interview him again because he's done so much in the past 14 years. He does so much in 14 days that there's enough to fodder for him. But anyway, so I got to interview Carl Bernstein, and he was incredible. And I think the whole audience, whichever way they stood, on whichever side of the aisle they stood, I think everybody was very appreciative of his perspective. I will say, though, there was an incident.
What do you mean there was an incident?
Well,
Like someone asked a weird question?
No, there were definitely some great questions. But so we get there, and Mommy and Daddy came in for the interview, which was great. They drove in from Birmingham, and I had to be there at 5 o'clock. The event didn't start till 7, but I had to be there at 5 o'clock for a sound check. So I brought them with me, and I had Zoomed with Carl Bernstein. So I had, technically met him, virtually, but then I see him, and I reintroduced myself, and then I brought him down to do the sound check after I finished mine. And there's Mommy and Daddy, and I said, I'd like you to meet my parents. And of course, Dad said, hello, I'm Milton, and introduced him. And then Mommy, without
no.
hesitation, pulls Carl Bernstein into a giant Goldstein hug and
Oh,
embrace, and
God.
she's hugging him. And he
Is
didn't
he
know what to
hugging-
do.
Is he hugging back?
I mean, sort of. I was
Or
so.
are his arms by his side?
I,
Carl
th-
Bernstein.
I think he
it's-
just didn't know what to do, and I'm like, oh my goodness. So of course I'm in the middle of this, going, Mommy, why are you hugging Carl
Did you
Bernstein?
say this? Did you say, Mommy, why are you hugging Carl Bernstein? Or are you
Yes, I'm like,
thinking
he's not related to us. He's not our cousin.
Did
It's
you
sort
say
of-
that out loud?
Yes, I'm like, oh my goodness. And Carl Bernstein, and
Was he laughing? Did he start laughing?
He did, and
Thank God.
he is really one of those. He's just one of those affable guys who makes everyone around him feel so comfortable. Some of the students were saying, "Are you nervous about interviewing him?" And I said, "I'm really not, because he really makes everybody just feel at home and very comfortable."
But like
And
comfortable enough to hug
little
him,
bit
because
too comfortable,
That's a little
right.
different. There's comfortable enough to ask him a question or get into conversation, and then we're in the middle of a big hug comfortable, which
Yeah.
he is like a serious reporter.
Yeah,
He's
and
a
I
journalist.
think because he's like this cute little Jewish man,
Yeah.
he feels familial to you either way, but especially since we're Jewish, and
Right.
he's the exact same age as Mom and Dad. Of course,
Did she
Daddy,
try and play Jewish geography
no,
with him?
we didn't get that far. We didn't have enough time.
Oh,
But Daddy,
God.
of course, last week goes, "Do you know what Carl Bernstein's middle name is?" I go, "Yes, it's Milton." And I also know, which is true. And so,
Did Dad
which
say
is our
that to
dad's
him?
name, and he loved that. And he was pretty funny. He had on these white tennis shoes. So before we were filming, I said, I got to tell you, I'm digging the white tennis shoes. They're very hip. And he goes, "Well, thank you, but it's really just because I'm old and no other
I knew.
shoes are comfortable." And he goes, "They're kind of my hip hop look." I go, "Nice." He goes, "Do you have a hip hop name?" And I go, "I don't." He goes, "You want to know mine?" I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "It's Mayor something." I go, "What's that?" He goes, "It's really my Yiddish name." And so I started laughing. I sort of prompted him in the middle of our interview, the live interview, to tell his Yiddish hip hop name, which he didn't go there. But I just thought, this is his ilk, right? This is the type of guy he is. So I get it.
Maybe
but
if he was in New York,
still-
he would have felt more comfortable talking about his Yiddish hip hop name, but not in the
Yeah,
middle of
not as-
Chattanooga. Yeah.
And yeah, the irony's not lost that they have these two Jewish journalists on stage at a Seventh-day Adventist university talking about politics. And the name
in
of
the
the
middle of the
presentation-
Bible Belt.
in
right.
the middle of the Bible Belt, and the name of the presentation, which they named, was "Why Truth Still Matters." So talk about a provocative topic.
Wow.
But it was great the whole time. Of course, even on our way home, I was like, I go, "Mommy, of course I have to start with, Mommy, I'm so glad," which I was. "I'm so glad you and Daddy came, but why did you hug Carl Bernstein?"
She can't help herself. What did she say?
I don't think she knows. She just said, I think because he kind of did one of those two-arm handshake looks, right? Where he kind of came at her, but like it could have been interpreted that he was going to hug her. I don't know who would have interpreted that
This-
way except for
yeah.
her, but she was really going in for the handshake. She interpreted it as a hug. She went full Arlene, full embrace.
Look,
Now, who knows? I don't
I
if they're going to call it Mommygate or Embrace Gate. This is this is what I've been, stressed
awkward
about.
hug gate. Look, I cannot make fun of mommy too much because I have totally 100% inherited this quality from her. And I consider both me and mommy extremely emotionally intelligent, where we're able to pick up on what makes people uncomfortable, except when it comes to hugging. I have the worst sense of, does this person want to be hugged? And there are times where I'm in the middle of hugging someone and I'm like, this person does not want this hug. And then it becomes even more awkward because it feels like everything's in slow motion, trying to get out of the hug. One time, I hugged this comedian and that happened where I mean, I am a stand-up comedian for those of you who are listening for the first time. But so I was hugging I was hugging
We have a
I was
lot of
hugging
caveats to this
right, I
episode.
know, but I was hugging someone like that I knew, right? But not that well. But I am a hugger, so I was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" and gave him a hug. The next time I saw him, he came after me with a hello introduction with a fist bump, right? He knew. He was like, fist bump, and I'm like, "Okay,
Right.
that's great.
Boundary setting.
That's a
Mhm.
great subtle way of being like, we're not hugging."
So
Right?
so the opposite happened to me when I first moved to Chattanooga. Like everyone, and you know how it is in the South, and especially the Jewish South, everybody is hugging and everybody's kissing and everybody's aunt and uncle, even the people, most of all, the people who are not related to us. It's very hard to differentiate who are our actual aunts and uncles because everybody at some point is aunt this, uncle that. So I was navigating the community in Chattanooga. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was at an event and I came up to this person and I immediately hugged them. And as I'm hugging them, I realized this was not a hugging relationship with Alan's family because I could just in the moment, right? And it was too late. You can't pull back. I was full hugging. And even Alan said, "Why did you hug that person?" I said, "I don't know. I thought you had a huggy relationship with them, and it was very obvious mid-hug that you did not." He goes, "We do not." Well, that was 25 years ago when I moved here. The opposite happened every time I saw him. Your person, I wish they had said, "Here, fist bump, we don't hug." That person took advantage of the fact that I had crossed over the hugging threshold, and every time I saw that person wanted to give me a hug. And I
Oh,
just I
that's
was stuck.
nice.
No, not because I didn't really want to hug this person. And
Uh-oh.
and then luckily, fast forward a few years, there was a different interaction, which I really can't go into because I'm trying to protect myself and others. But where this person sort of had words with me, not stern words, was not upset, but said something about it. And I said, "Oh, okay, good to know, good to know." And that was the end of the hugging because
Oh,
I
they mean
thought,
like they made fun of the hugging thing?
no, they didn't make fun of the hugging, but, I had always so I'll give you an example, like, you know how you meet people or, like, some people we have a friend who was Andy growing up and then became Andrew in, law
Right.
school, whatever. I have
Yeah.
a friend who was Jimmy growing up, he became Jim and so depending
Danny,
on
and now he's Daniel.
right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so when you meet people that your spouse especially has grown up with, you're usually it's like, "Hey, this is Tommy," or "This is Danny," or so or Allie, and then I call them by the grown up, by the childhood names.
And they're like,
And so,
"No."
yes, and so this person was one of those, like, it was like one of those, like, Danny. And so finally, the person, after like 2 years, right, of hugging the Danny person, or the Allie person, it doesn't matter if it's man or woman, came up to me and said, "By the way, I really don't go by Danny anymore. My name is Dan." And
But
I
this
said,
was regarding hugs.
"No, no, no. This is just regarding." I had seen them in
Oh,
public. I had
yeah.
seen them. This is fast forward 2 years. I was out with my work friends. I'd seen this person at a restaurant, and I
Yeah.
just kind of casually went, "Hey, Danny," and it was like, "Oh, got to give the hug, whatever," which is awkward. And they pulled me aside in the middle of this restaurant, like during business lunch hour, and said, I really don't go by Dan anymore. My name is Dan. And I said, oh. And that was actually liberating for me because I hugged Danny. I didn't know anything to Dan.
Right.
So now that
It's like
this
a
was
start over,
it was a
right?
total
You're like,
do-over,
great,
start over. I
because
thought
Dan doesn't deserve any hugs.
Dan gets no hugs. All of my hugs, I have an allegiance to hugging Danny. But now that we've got this new relationship, and so it freed me. So now I am free from that. But you gotta be careful when you cross the hugging threshold. It's not often. I am a rare situation where I actually found an out, but typically you can't go back.
Sometimes I announce that I'm a hugger, right? And there are people who will call you out before the hug happens. Like Aaron and I, this was years ago. We were at a Christmas office holiday party for the generic law industry, just to paint a little picture of the types of personalities there. But and they don't know what to do with me, I have to say, in that situation. But we talked to this couple all night long, and we were having such a good time with them. And the night ended, and we were saying goodbyes, and I said, I was like, oh, I'm a hugger, and the guy kind of took a step back. He goes, I am not.
Oh,
And I go, okay, are you more of like a handshaker or like a high fiver? And he goes, no, I'm more of a waver. And and I was like, this really establishes things. That is the furthest you can get from a hug, is someone who just wants to wave goodbye.
why
You
would you
know,
ever wave to somebody? Like that wasn't
I
between there wasn't a piece of like glass between the two of you?
I mean, that is who he is. He is I was like,
Oh,
okay, I will not be anywhere near you. We have established your
yeah.
boundaries are very far away. It's actually fun going to the lawyer events, being totally clueless about who everyone is, because there's like a hierarchy, right? And Aaron runs his own firm, but there's a hierarchy within law firms. There's a hierarchy in the legal industry. And we were at this huge party that happens every year. I call it the shrimp party because there's always like a table of shrimp that I kind of stick around. And I am in line. There is a clear line. And this old dude gets in front of me. He cuts in front of me in a very rude way, not in like I'm a clueless older person,
Mm.
right? He stepped in front of
It
me
was a
like
power play. It
it
was
was
a
a power
shrimp power
play.
play.
It was a
Mhm.
shrimp power play. And I looked at him. I said, "Excuse me, sir, there is
No, you
line."
didn't.
I did. And I'm usually like pretty like I don't care, let things go. But he was so like obvious about cutting in line in front of me like he was owed something. So I stopped him and I said, "Excuse me, sir, I was in line first." And he looked so taken aback. He didn't know what to do. And evidently it was a judge. And I did and that's why, because he was used to all the lawyers kind of
Right.
be like, "Hello, sir. Good to see you, sir. Would you like to cut in line in front of me? Can I get you a drink?" And I was like, "I don't care that you're a judge." Right? I'm not planning on doing anything illegal, and if I was, I don't even think I'd be in his courtroom. Not that he's going to remember me.
You are not taking the last shrimp
I was
cocktail if
like,
I have to
"Excuse
fight
me.
you for it. If I have
Those
to
are
wrestle you to the ground.
those are my shrimp.
Oh my
I'm going to get
gosh.
those shrimp before you." So yeah.
Well,
As yeah.
speaking of shrimp, I've got a new show that of course I've been binging, and it's the intersection of two things I love in this world. One is
Seafood,
food.
seafood.
One is food, yes. Specifically brunch. If anybody is listening, here is a secret about me. I will meet you for coffee if you need, everybody says, can we meet, right? Meet for coffee. Sometimes for lunch, it's really that's like feels like a drag to me. I don't really care about lunch. Cocktails, okay, but the secret to me is ask me to meet for breakfast and I will come 10 times out of 10 if I'm available because I love breakfast. On the weekend, I love brunch. So this show is called The Big Brunch, and one of the hosts is Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek.
Oh, I love him.
I love him. And the beauty of this show
I
is
feel like he's our
it's
cousin. He's
I
not,
know,
but
I
he
would hug
should
him if I
be.
saw him.
Wait, you interviewed his dad.
I interviewed him,
Oh,
his dad, and his
and his
sister
sister.
during COVID, on Zoom. So I didn't get to meet him in person. But if I saw him in real life, I would absolutely hug Daniel Levy. I love him. But if you have it, it's on HBO Max,
Oh, I
The
do
Big
have it.
Brunch, and
Yeah.
it showcases not only the really kind of exquisite and unique culinary efforts of all of these chefs, but also their life stories. And it's a way that their food is being seen, but their person and personality is really being seen
Yeah.
and focused on. It's a beautiful display of how you can have a competition, but it not be mean or fierce. I think it takes a cue from the Great British Baking Show, which is my
Yeah.
other favorite cooking show. But it's worth the watch, worth the binge.
Well, I love brunch for brunch. I love brunch for lunch. I love brunch for dinner, for snack. I'm also with you on team breakfast foods. When the kids first went to Sunday school, and we had free time, I was like, Aaron, let's go to brunch. And we drove to this awesome brunch place, and I forgot about brunch and good brunch places because there's also a
An hour
45-minute
wait.
line. Yeah. It was like, so we made our own brunch. Well, thanks for listening to the latest Sis Tell podcast. Don't forget to share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us with your foes.
As always, this has been Amanda and Allison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.